All right. It looks like we are live now. Fantastic. See a few people in the waiting room, so we'll wait a second for everyone to join. We got 4 people now. Wonderful. Looks like everyone's in. Set my alarm. That's awesome. That's awesome. Good to see everybody. How's everyone's week going so far? What are you guys reading? Still finishing books from the previous week, or anything new and exciting on the agenda, on the reading docket this week? While I wait for your replies, I'll just share some of the things that I was going through. So I mentioned in the title of this thumbnail or this video, um, endurance by the about Shackleton's voyage. So I've been kind of on a tear for adventure stories recently. So I definitely want to talk a lot about this a little bit more today. But what are you guys reading? Yay, live. Good evening from the UK. Amazing. Good evening from Canada. Or good afternoon, I guess. Yeah, it's late for you. What time is it there? Is it 9, 10? How many hours ahead is I think it's 6 hours ahead of me, right? Anyways, looks like that's awesome. Sorry, everyone, just making sure this is all up and running. The technology side of things looks like we are good to go. So, so as everyone's coming in, as everyone's joining, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your books that you're reading this week. I've got a number of things that I definitely want to talk about, a number of exciting announcements, a number of exciting, I guess, uh, changes, and yeah, and all of that moving forward. Before we do, let's answer some of the questions from the chat here. Hello, hello, hi from Switzerland, good to see ya. Lots of forest fires in Canada. Yeah, yeah. Actually, the air quality in Toronto today was among the worst in the world. So that's always a nice thing to wake up to. But staying inside is definitely advised. And I grew up in BC, so we got a lot of forest fires out there. So something that I'm aware of for sure. Here from the Texas Gulf Coast. Hello to everyone. Likely to be unwantonly quiet today because of 6-month cardiology panel. Okay, okay. Hope that you're feeling better, Markham. Hopefully, you'll be up and feeling back to 100% for our discussion next week on the book club. I'm counting on you. You're one of the core people there, and your insights are amazing. For everyone who doesn't know, Markham did like a huge behind the scenes deep dive for Watership Down. It's actually on his Substack for free as well if you're interested in going and reading about it. But it's been very helpful to understand the sense of space and place in England as we're reading through the book. Those kinds of things are just little additional elements that I think help us get a much richer reading experience. At least for myself, the more I learn about the books that I'm reading, the more I feel fully equipped to inhabit the world that I'm living in. So started Girl with the Dragon Tattoo on your recommendation last week. Hi from Saskatchewan. Hello, that's awesome. Yes, that is a very, I said entertaining, but I don't think it's an entertaining book. It's a very gripping book. It's dark. It's not necessarily something that is fun to read, but you can't put it down. You're like, what's happening? What's happening next? A lot of people say in the first few chapters, there's a lot of different names, and that can be a little bit overwhelming. We're noticing that as well in Life and Fate, as we're reading through that as well, that there's just so many Russian names, and sometimes that can be a little bit overwhelming. But I encourage you to stick with it because it's just such a great story. Found a very old Gentleman for Blondes. That's awesome. That's awesome. I have my copy over there. Um, but yeah, that's a great one. So 3 things today before I let myself go on too many tangents that I definitely wanted to make sure to mention. The first one is a library near my house had $10 to fill a bag of books. So I had the audacity to think at the beginning, I'm probably not going to get anything today. I'm just going to look. And then, of course, as soon as I started looking, I went absolutely hog wild and I filled the bag to the brim with all sorts of great books. Some of them were nonfiction or philosophy. There was a couple of tomes from Kierkegaard that I put in there as well, but a lot of it was fiction, of course. And some books that I've either read before, but maybe I listened to it on Audible, or I don't have a physical copy because I had borrowed it or something. So that's really nice because then I can have the physical book to talk about when I'm talking about books, and some of them that I want to read. So my ever-growing reading list is getting changed like the waves ebb and flow depending on which books are cheap at the local library. But it was $10 for a full bag of books. I'll show you guys. Just this thing right here. This is the bag. I filled it to the brim. So, a lot of good ones. I was thinking maybe we'll unpack some of those on the live stream today, but huge, huge list of books. And some of the first ones that I had, A Thousand Splendid Suns. I love this book. I think I had the physical version, but I think I borrowed it from a friend, so I now own it. Beautiful. And then after I finished filling my book, I realized that there was actually more to it. So there were more Khaled Hosseini books, and I was like, "Dang, I should have saved some space." But that's a really good one. Um, what else do we got here? We got White Fang, copy of White Fang. I thought that was awesome. Very nice edition. The Dover Thrift, classic one. Um, this is beautiful. Nice addition to the Call of the Wild. I love that book too. Um, uh, what else do we got? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So I've seen the film, but I've never read the book, and I've heard the book's very good. So I thought I would add that one to the list as well. And let me know as I go through some of these books, guys, too, if there's anything here that you are really interested in reading at any point in the future. Um, and any ones that you would like me to prioritize in the reviews, because you're here at this stage. So I thought it would be appropriate to give you guys first dibs. Oh, and I will talk about Endurance by Lansing later on as well, because that book just blew my socks off. I think I mixed metaphors there. Knocked my socks off or blew me away. Whatever. It blew my socks off. I'm going to go with that. Um, but I've been really interested in adventure novels, and I'm just like, man, what other real life adventure stories, either Shackleton related adventures or other adventurers, can I read or should I read? Maybe I could do a whole video on several of those moving forward. But let's keep going through all of these lists, these books in the huge bag here as well. We got Red Dragon. So this is the first one of the Hannibal Lecter series. Um, The Silence of the Lambs is the more famous one. I've never read the original, but you know, I like the way that Thomas Harris writes. It's an interesting style, so I thought it would be appropriate to get that one, and maybe I'll do a review of it in the future. Um, what else do I have here? I found so I'm a fan of Joyce Carol Oates, and I found this. I actually haven't heard that much about this specific book, but I thought, okay, great, another one to add to my list. She's a really great short story writer, so it'll be interesting. It's a novel, but it will be interesting to see. What else do we have here? There's a few um, nonfiction books. This one by Cal Newport. It's called Deep Work. It's about essentially very helpful as a writer, actually, this book, giving yourself time to just dig down deep and really engage in that creative process without always being on the quick answer train. You know, a lot of us, I think, spend a lot of time doing busy work. We answer a lot of emails, we answer a lot of comments. We're like, what's the next thing? How many, I got to get this, I got to get this. Those are if we take the matrix of important and urgent, those are the urgent but unimportant things. So this book really talks about how to inculcate habits of deep work into your life so that you're able to get those really important creative projects done. And of course, a big part of that is giving yourself space to write if you're a writer, or if you're a machine learning whatever you do. If you're a computer, if you work in computers, if you work in art, if you work in education, whatever you do, giving yourself space to really go deep. And that is also beautiful in the AI age because we can replace the email thread type work. That stuff isn't really helpful. But the deep human work, that's something only we can do because it requires like deciding what you want to do. You know, you could get an AI to do the work, but it's not going to have its own desires. So, anyways, very interesting book. Not really related to the fiction conversation, but it does segue a little bit into the one of the other announcement that I wanted to make in this, which is that I finally finished my manuscript of my first, what I hope will be my debut novel. So I'm very excited about this. This is a work in progress for many years. I put it on the shelf for a while, and then I came back to it, back and forth, and then just this past year, I really dove back in, reworked it, and was able to finish it and finally understand what the end of the story was, which was a huge breakthrough for me. So that was a lot of fun. And now I am entering the final edits, querying publication stage. So hopefully I'm able to get representation. I'm going to go the traditional publishing route on this one, or at least try that first. I may decide to self-publish if it's not working, because I do believe in this project. I think it's a good project. Um, there's no guarantees, obviously. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of people saying congratulations, congratulations. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. But I don't take it for granted that just because I wrote something that anyone's going to want to read it. I really put a lot into this, and I think it's pretty much as good as I can make it. I can do a little bit more reviews working with beta readers and people that I know, which is what I'm doing, and then working through the final stages. And so I will absolutely keep you guys updated. Yes, yes, I'll keep you updated on this as well. It is the long process, right? This doesn't happen overnight, making a novel into a published work that people can actually read. It takes a lot of people, it takes a village. And even if I would go the self-publication route, it would still be several months before it's been properly edited. You have a good title, like the right title. I have a working title, but I won't share that yet because it's subject to change probably at this point. You're going to get turned down many times, probably. Even if you have a really great novel, there's different questions. So this is a literary fiction kind of novel. So the problem is, yeah, that was a question. Is it fiction? Yes, this one is literary fiction. I guess would be the closest genre, but it's not an easy genre piece. It's not like I wrote a fantasy book or a science fiction book, which ironically in the past used to be the hardest ones to publish sometimes, but now they're the easiest. If you write something that is very easy to mass market for like a paperback in a bookstore or something like that, um, those are going to do very well. But this, it could do very well, right? There's many examples, but it's just harder to get the exact clarity that you need to be able to pitch it clearly to an agent. So that's something that I'm going to have to work through. And who knows? Maybe it'll be a smooth process. Maybe it'll be a really friction-filled process. But at the end of the day, I really just want to share this. But I want to share the best version of it. I don't want to share it prematurely. So that's why I'm deciding to pursue this way. Um, yeah, I'm really excited about this. And if anyone else is a writer or you're working through your projects, finishing a book, just about to finish it, let me know as well because I would love to hear your experiences. Maybe there's things I can learn about the process, things that I can share about my process, and whatnot. But that is the big announcement, I guess, the finishing of my manuscript here. Awesome. Is anyone near Bloomington, Indiana in October? The annual Hosier Hills Book Fair occurs. 100,000 volumes of all sorts of genres, $1 to $3 on average. Wow. Wow. 5-day events. That sounds amazing. I'm not anywhere near there. Maybe I'll have to go there in October. That would be fun. I would love to do that kind of thing in the future. Um, you know, to go to more local literary festivals, even if I can travel a bit to do that. Obviously, it could be cost prohibitive, but maybe in the future I could go there and share something, um, you know, and do speaking or something like that, and then be able to go. I think that would be a lot of fun. Starting your writing journey as well. That's awesome. That's awesome. I encourage everyone to write a novel, actually, even if you don't publish. I don't think everyone should publish a novel, but I think everyone should write a novel. And what I mean by that is not to be a kind of like elitist, like, oh, not everyone has what it takes or something like that. Far be it for me to say that. It might be the case that some certain people have different gifts or different talents in this world. Not everyone is going to be a studio musician, but everyone should sing. Music is a beautiful part of life, and I think it should be a part of our daily lives. I feel the same way about writing. Um, I think everyone should write a novel because we all have a story inside of us, and it might not be something you share with many people, but maybe you share it with a few people, 4 or 5 people, and you could change a life by just sharing your own experiences. Or even if nobody else reads it, you could get clarity on some of the challenges, some of the holdups in your own life, some of the barriers and obstacles that you've had. That was my experience, finishing this novel because it wasn't my first full novel that I finished. They say don't publish your first novel, and some people do, some people don't. It might be sage advice. My first one, I hope, never sees the light of day. It's actually the story itself. I still think is like it could be like a film, like maybe like into a screenplay. It's not terrible, but my actual writing is abysmal. Like I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, how did I think this was any good? There are moments of the writer that I've become in there, but it's like a sci-fi dystopian adventure story. So I was like, I don't know if this is really great. But this one is much stronger, at least in terms of voice, in terms of writing. And you can't use ChatGPT. Yeah, no, you can't. I mean, this is a big question right now in the publication space. ChatGPT, could you use AI? My thinking of this is like the actual creative part, the writing, you should stay very far away from any AI. Maybe you could make a case for like grammar editing or something like that, but the problem is the barrier could become kind of gray. It could become fuzzy. So I would just stay away from it. In terms of like learning how to market your book or learning how to you could use it like a sounding board, like talking with it. Hey, I'm writing a scene about this. Like, what do you think about this idea? And then it's going to give you some answers. The answers are probably not going to be that profound. They might be okay, but they might help you to kind of like if you were talking to someone to bounce an idea off of them. I think there's a lot of ways you can use it, but at least for me, I don't use it in the writing process. There's a big scandal of a book that did that and got pulled from publication. So I think that'll be probably the standard moving forward. Is like if anyone used AI to write and didn't explicitly say this is an AI generated thing, then I think that could cause a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Um, have I heard of fan fiction and Wattpad? I have actually. So if my first novel ever gets published, it would probably be like a periodical on something like Wattpad. I don't think it would ever it would ever make real publication, but I think that's it. Fan fiction stuff's cool. There's a lot of Harry Potter fan fiction. That's a big thing right now that I'm noticing is uh, is huge. I've never really been into fan fiction, but is anyone here a fan of fan fiction? Do you have any thoughts about it? Any you like, you don't like, recommendations, not recommendations? I'd be really curious. I just don't have the experience with fan fiction to speak too eloquently about it. Um, Generally, I think it sounds to me like it's kind of derivative. You're not creating your own thing. You're just making more of a world that's already exists. But if many people already love a world, and they want to go back into that world, and you could tell a very unique and different story within the confines of that world. That could be very creative. So, who knows? Like any medium, I think probably when film started, all the theater actors thought this is a ridiculous medium, um, and then now I think many people would not feel that way, even if they like cinema. Practice penmanship for fun. I would like to say I do that as well, but my writing is worse than a doctor's, I would say. It's not very good at all. I definitely have to change that. No, that wasn't the one. There we go. How do you choose your cover art? That's a good question. I haven't I haven't really gotten to that phase yet. And it would really depend on the book. I think with fantasy, maybe that would be a very different question. With mine, it would probably be very minimal. Um, I personally, I love vintage, the publication style. So we have here Life and Fate as an example. Now there's patterns, but something like that, just like a book title, and then in particular when you get to um, like the early pages, it's just very minimal. I really like that look. That to me is my aesthetic, my favorite aesthetic. But um, but yeah, I mean like Fahrenheit 451 is another example. I don't I like this title. It's not that bad. Then you got something like fantasy, like The Hobbit. Of course, it's gonna have a different title. It's gonna look a little bit more exciting. Uh, let's see. Let's continue going through some of these books from the library and see what else we got. Um, oh, The complete works of Oscar Wilde. See, this title it would be good because it's just a picture of Oscar Wilde, but I'm not Oscar Wilde yet, so um, probably wouldn't be what I would put on my title. I think that would be a little bit of chutzpah if I would do that. It's just a picture of me on the title. Maybe at some point in the future, but yes, vintage is nice. Do you have any other ideas in mind for the next publication? I do. I have a lot. Um, I think I know the one that's going to be next. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to like promise anything. And but what can I say? I can say that right now I have a project in mind that I really like. That is a. It's kind of a. It's not like a proper children's novel, but it's more of a children's novel. Maybe something like middle grade reader, but I don't particularly believe in the philosophy of you should dumb down the language for children, So yeah, yeah, it's something I'm working on. I'm in the very early stages. I've written like a couple chapters of it. Realistically, my next publications are probably going to be short stories. So I wrote a short story for Substack, for not for Substack. I posted it on my Substack called "The Children Came Hungry," and it's a retelling of Hansel and Gretel, but it's a very dark kind of uh, retelling of the story from the witch's perspective. So this is a very common creative writing prompt that you'll often get in college or from writers to like retell a fairy tale. And so I essentially did that. But this one, I liked it. Like I liked the voice, I liked the character. It just turned out to be something that I thought was actually had some legs. So I decided to put it out there, just as a very like it was almost unedited, and people liked it, and I got a little bit of feedback. So I might rework that into something that would be publishable on in a literary journal of sorts. And then I have a few other short stories that are kind of in that category as well. So those will probably be the first things I would publish. I have some poetry as well, so maybe some poems and some short stories. But in terms of novels, they take a lot longer. So by the time this one's done, I hope to have another one finished at least. Um, but yeah, so it's something I'm very excited about, and but I'm having so much fun just talking about books. Like I get to talk about books in my day to day. I get to just say, "Oh, this book was fun, and I really enjoyed it. This book was moving and meaningful, and it really changed my perspective of the world." And to be able to do that is a huge blessing for me. So that is kind of my main vision moving forward. The ones that I am kind of trying to share to the world, share my passion for reading, and then my passion for book related communities, starting here, starting in the book club, things like that. So hopefully those will grow in the future. And then by the time my book comes out, maybe there'll be a few more people in our community that might be interested in taking a look and sharing their own books as well. So yeah, that's kind of the vision. But is there one book you wish you had written? Oh, that's a great question. That's a really great question. Oh, that's a hard one to answer. Because most of the books I talk about, I wish I had written. Most of the books I talk about, I almost the only maybe with very few exceptions, books that I had read very recently that were within the kind of right genre of what I was talking about. Almost every single book I talk about is one I really loved, really impacted me. The one that continues to blow my mind always is Shakespeare. I just think it's ridiculous. Like whenever one of my favorite biographies of all time is Will in the World by Stephen Greenblatt, and he's talking about William Shakespeare as a man, and we don't know as much about him as we would have liked to know. But what we do know from the various sources we have, it seems pretty clear that he wasn't really the genius artist character that we think of with most. He wasn't a romantic, let's put it that way. It seems that he needed money and then he would write Hamlet and then he would publish it. It's like ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. And then you read his work and you're like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever encountered. Harold Bloom said he has a book called Shakespeare and the Invention of the modern human or something to that end. And I might have got the title wrong, but it's something like that. Shakespeare really changed the game. He changed everything. The psychological depth that you get in reading Shakespeare was unprecedented. You could say that there were other older novels, like The Tale of Genji had kind of a unique level of interiority, which is why a lot of people think of it as the first novel. Don Quixote then went to another level and totally changed the way that we read. When you read Shakespeare, it has that as well, even though it's not a novel. It has such psychological richness, depth, and interiority, and it asks all the questions. Like most books, if they're really good, they do one thing. But you'll read a play by Shakespeare and it'll be like asking questions of fate and of purpose and of death and of mortality and of and of meaning and of loss and love and all these things like all together in just super profound ways. And so, very long-winded answer, but probably Hamlet or Hamlet or King Lear would be the one that I was like, if I had written that, it would blow my mind. But in terms of novels, in terms of like modern novels that I've read that I wish I had written, to be honest, when I finished reading the A Gentleman in Moscow, I was like, that was so good. Like I wish I wrote that. That was fun. That was fun as well. But that's a very different level. Not like I couldn't imagine writing it. It's just like that's a cool idea. I could have. I feel like I could have done that. But he did it very well and differently than I would have. Anyways, I thought that was a great question. Thank you, Wendy. That was an awesome question. More questions like that in the future, guys. Those are good ones. Let's keep going through. What do we got here? Okay, we got some philosophy books. We don't need to go through all the philosophy books. Oh, this is a good one. I got Pioneers by David McCullough. So I got to do some biography books as well, going through. That'll be fun. Another one, another history one that I thought would be interesting, Butch Cassidy biography. Wow, that's cool. That's got to be good. Um, some business books. Like I said, there's some philosophy, some Kierkegaard. What is this one? It's Fear and Trembling and it's The Sickness Unto Death. So those are both pretty good Kierkegaard ones. What else do we have? I have a few other ones that I noticed here. Oh, this is a really good one. When Breath Becomes Air. Has anyone read this one? This one is an extremely touching memoir about a neurosurgeon. I believe he's a neurosurgeon, or is he a plastic surgeon? I think he's a neurosurgeon. He's a neurosurgeon who's diagnosed with cancer. And it's his reflections on mortality and life, and just such a beautiful title, When Breath Becomes Air. Really, really touching, beautiful memoir, but that's a really, really good one. Anyways, getting some comments on McCullough. David McCullough's great. Yeah, he's awesome. 1776 is also a really, really great book. Yeah, that's one of. I haven't read all of his books, so it's one of my favorite McCulloughs. You know, I have many more McCullough books to read, but 1776 is just maybe the best single biography, like short book on the founding. If you were just going to read one book, of course, you want to read so much more. It's astounding. Um, yeah, there's so many great there's so many his Adams biography I want to read. Hamilton. Um, there's so many biographies that I need to read in that era, and McCullough's written a bunch of them. Ron Chernow's written a bunch of them. Yeah, there's quite a few good ones. Um, oh, I have another one about Canada here actually, Dominion. So this is a really interesting one. So for those of you guys who have a good grasp on Canadian history, this might be a little bit of a refresher, but for some people, maybe this will be interesting because I know a lot of my audience is American and British. Um, so the railway is essentially what built Canada in a way that is not paralleled in other countries. So the United States, you could say, was built partly by the Mississippi River Basin and the extremely navigable waterways and the riverboats and the railroads together with a number of other industrial innovations helped to build America. But Canada is really a country that demographically has become and historically always was stops on a railway. You have Upper and Lower Canada, Quebec and Ontario and the Maritimes. They that would be like it's historic Canada. But why do we have, Calgary and Vancouver and Edmonton and all these, Winnipeg? The vast majority of Canada is covered by the Canadian Shield, right? So it's totally, totally um, not arable. Can't really use it for farmland. It's not super useful in the ways that we need it to be to support civilization. But the railway cut through the mountainous passages, the regions of Canada that were basically unreached. And it was actually kind of a race against time because when the initial impetus to build these railways was super strong under the early leaders of Canada. This is like mid 1800s, 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, even a little bit before that. There was a lot of speculators from the States that were trying to go up north, particularly in British Columbia and Alberta, what is today British Columbia and Alberta. And so John A. Macdonald actually made one of the railway paths for CP rail go south instead of going right along the north, like the natural way, the way the Rockies work. You want to follow it up kind of north of Calgary and then down towards Vancouver. It cut through Revelstoke and down south to make sure that that part of Canada would be Canadian and at that time British territory. And so Canadian history is really, really tied up with, I mean, there's a few things, right? There's culturally, Canadian history is tied up with the French and the English, as well as the Canadians and the Indigenous and those interplays. Those are like important parts. But in terms of the industrial Canada, why do we have such a urbanized country? Why are there so few cities? And why are they all so separated from one another? It's because they were following the railway. Anyways, bit of a I don't know if it's we call it a history lesson, but a bit of a just insight into this. And this book um, really goes deeper into that. So I thought it would be super fun to read that to see how much of my understanding is correct based on watching podcasts, reading history books, taking classes in high school and whatnot, and how much I learned from this. Because a lot of times you learn new things. But I also briefly worked on a railway, so that's how I know some of this stuff as well. That was a good job, good summer job. But hard people, really, really tough people that aren't do a really important job that keeps our country running and keeps the states running as well. I know in Canada, two of our largest companies are the railways, so we're essentially like a financial and railway country company, you could say. But in terms of innovation, we don't really have tech industry and things like the states has, but it is really interesting, and I think it's one of those things that as Canadians we do need to be proud of as well. Um, but I won't let this become a descent into Canadian history. Let's see, Dominion. The Newfies are gonna bring. That is very true. That's very true. I feel like Newfies and the Quebecers are probably not gonna like my view of Canadian history, but the problem is they're wrong. And I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. There's many ways to look at it. There's a lot of different angles, and you know what? Every book that you read on history gives you a different layer to the insight. Let's take American history, right? You're going to read all the founding era books, and that's going to give you a huge insight. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't read the works that were critical of the founding, because those works, from the British perspective or whatnot, are going to give you kind of the other side of the story. In the case of the States, the founding, like I'm kind of do or die. I'll ride with you guys all the way. So, but you know what I mean? Like it's worth reading. And in Canada, there are elements of Canadian history that I think it can feel like, wow, the French were here first, the Spanish were there as well, but the French were here first, and then the British kind of came and dominated. And now Canada is technically a bilingual country, and it's got both, but the power balance is questionable. And then because of that questionable power balance, there's like equalization payments where Quebec gets like a really good deal at the expense of Alberta and other provinces, and so it can really become a little bit complicated when we look at all this. But anyways, that was a bit of a tangent there. Thank you, Markham. I appreciate that. McCullough's biography on Truman is amazing. Yes, I have to read that one. I really Truman's a fascinating character. Another four-part, I think it's four-part biography that I really wanted to read was the Lyndon B. Johnson biography by oh shoot, I'm blanking. What's his name? Um, Let me look it up. Biography, four-part. I'm sure that it's going to come up. Robert A. Caro, of course. I forgot his name. Anyways, Caro's four-part biography. I started reading one, like the first book in the library, and just the intro of it totally gripped me. It was just talking about like a young Lyndon B. Johnson. He's working, he's poor, he's super ambitious, and he's told by all these oil men essentially, "Hey, we can help you out." And he said, "Not yet. You'll help me out later," kind of thing. It's like, wow, he's thinking ahead. Complicated character. Not a huge fan. We won't get into that necessarily, but he's a complicated character for sure. Certainly grew the size of government, had some very unsavory views of minorities. I think even though he's credited for the civil rights reforms, it was really his predecessors that put those gears into motion. But very interesting. Definitely have to check out that biography. I definitely need to check out Truman biography as well. Kierkegaard is great, is what Markham says. Yes, of course. Kierkegaard's awesome. What other comments we got here? I could read Don Quixote every year and enjoy it every time. Faulkner apparently read it annually. Yeah, yeah, Don Quixote, man, that is good. I don't think there is a more entertaining. Like the first novel is still the most entertaining. Isn't that amazing, right? Like the very first one that we have is one of the most entertaining novels. Anyways, it's just amazing. Um, yeah, yeah, and Faulkner is not entertaining, but I think I was telling you this, Jeff. But when I read Faulkner, I started actually with Faulkner's short stories, which I think was good for me because he's not super accessible. But once you get into Faulkner, it's like you've never read anything like Faulkner. There's nobody like him, right? It's just it's just totally a different beast from any other type of book that you'll read. But when I read Absalom, Absalom, I finished it and I was like, okay, I wasn't immediately blown away by it. I was just kind of like, that was a lot. Then I let it sit and it really started to sink into me. And I actually reread the ending and I was like really blown away by it. I think I need to reread it. Like this is how I feel with Faulkner. I think it's probably requires annual rereading to really get out what you need to out of some of these books. I mean, let alone this guy has sentences that run like 3 pages long. So, your attention span needs to be pretty high if you wanna do well, I think, with Faulkner. But it's yeah. Okay, so some people have read When Breath Becomes Air. Good. I'm kind of jumping around all over the place here, so bear with me, everyone, but I will get to everything. The Great Bridge is both splendid history and a biography with it. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I haven't. Got to start with Dominion. Got to have a lot of these ones on the list here. Okay, okay. I find it hard to get into thick nonfiction these days. It's a great thing to bring up here as well. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's not always easy. I'm a big, big advocate of audiobooks. I hope to in the future maybe even read my like if I when I publish my own book, I hope um, hopefully soon. I hope to read the audiobook as well. I love audiobook. Like I've always thought I would like to be if I could get better at voice acting, I would be an audiobook narrator because I just devour audiobooks. I love them. I love Libro FM and Audible. I love what they do. I know, different people have different thoughts on it. I think it makes books more accessible, but for me, it makes certain kinds of books that I might not naturally want to read in like physically because they're just so big and dense, more accessible. And sometimes I find this works with nonfiction books. There's certain kinds of nonfiction books that I need to read physically because I need to take notes. But sometimes I actually do better to just put a nonfiction audiobook, go for a walk, and I'll write notes either on my phone or I'll take a little notebook with me. Um, and I find that could be better because It's like, hey man, I gotta read like 40 hours of this. I can be walking in like a nice environment, looking out at the sun, and it feels a little bit, more manageable. Maybe is the word. But certain nonfiction books, they're like candy. You can just blow through them. They're so fast. They're so easy. They're so gripping. And then other ones are a lot harder to get into. So it's definitely half a dozen of one, six of the other, right? So yeah. Hi, I'm new to the reading room, although I've been enjoying Benjamin's videos for several weeks now. Insights, enthusiasm, and knowledge base. Thank you. Well, welcome, Valerie. We're very happy to have you. I'm new to the reading room as well. This is only my second week here doing this, but I thought this would be I've had so much fun doing this so far. So I thought, okay, once a week we'll just do an hour. I'm sure it'll evolve in the future. It'll get better. It'll be more structured. Talking about specific things, I think probably makes the most sense, and also engaging with you guys. But you guys let me know. I mean, if you wanna be leaving more comments and engaging back and forth, just continue with the comments, and we'll make it what it needs to be. Yeah, I mean, the cool thing with live stream too, like I always look at live streams and I see, okay, you got all these live streamers that are doing sports and other things, but there aren't that many like literature live streams. I was like, we got to start doing more literature live streams, right? Where people have places that they can go. It's like, hey, we're just talking about books. Of course, dedicated book clubs, reading the books together, going really in depth, that stuff's important. But just below that, there's kind of a mid-level where it's like, I'm not going to read the books, but let's come together and just talk books more generally. So I thought that would be a cool thing to try, and we'll see where it goes. French Canada, ay, 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 the eternal battle. No, I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's that bad. It's something that some people like to double down on and bring back. I mean, I have a lot of friends in Montreal, and I go there, I speak French. I don't have a problem with French Canada. But when I made my video about 7 books to read on Canada Day, I didn't mention a French Canadian book, which maybe isn't was an oversight. But I also thought like it was probably an oversight. I probably should have added one, but I wasn't thinking like um, through the lens of I have to have a quota, or it's like I have to have the right number of books. So I was just ones of I read that are Canadian books that resonated with me. And I've read a lot of French books, but I haven't read any Quebecois books really. I actually don't know if I've read any. Watched a lot of films. And I think they have an amazing film tradition, but I haven't really engaged. And that isn't to say there aren't great Quebecois films. It's just to say that like the Quebecers writing hasn't yet been something that I have experienced. And I got a lot of negative comments because of that. So maybe the francophone versus anglophone is going to start up again here. But no, the truth is some great tradition there. Bain's Empire Express about T.D. Judah and Transcontinental Railway is a worthy counterpart. Yeah, that would be really interesting. I mean, the States also, like, we also have really great books about the building of America through railways, too. It's just in Canada, how much it's just so much. It's so much, such a big percentage of our history. Um, Willing to give Watership Down another shot, but as someone who loves children's lit, let me also suggest How to Train Your Dragon book series. Okay, I haven't heard of the book series. I've watched the movies. Really like those films. I'm fascinated by Truman's somewhat reluctant role in helping establish the modern nation of Israel. Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, he certainly wasn't. Um, the thing is, Truman is well. Recent events may change this, but I would say Truman's probably the most beloved in the Jewish community president, just because of the amount of support that he's given. But he wasn't like he was a man of his times. He wasn't necessarily supportive of the state of Israel. He didn't necessarily want it to exist. But he uh, he was convinced by a few different people. Chaim Weissman is probably the most influential person. And really, in the last moments, he said, okay, because he knew someone. It was for him a personal decision. He had a friend who was Jewish, and he said, you know what? The Holocaust just happened. All these terrible things happened. Fine, I'll support it. And that was a huge, huge turning point in history. So absolutely, absolutely. Um, I want to read McCullough's biography of Truman because I imagine he would give it a really fair assessment. Um, yeah, yeah. Anyways, that's all I'll say about that. But that's a fascinating conversation. I feel like that conversation is that's like all over the internet. Everywhere you go, people are having that conversation. So we don't need to have it right here. But I think that Truman is definitely a biography I would like to read. Thank you for introducing me to Cemetery of Forgotten Books. Of course, I have it over here. This one, so good. So good, one of my favorites. I started rereading it and I made it like a little bit and then I guess I stopped, but um, so good. If you can read Spanish, the original Spanish is so great, but my understanding is the translation is also quite good. So um, great book series. You have a great voice for reading. Yes, thank you. That's a win. That's a win. I'll take that. Um, the only thing I find is when I talk for a long time, my throat gets kind of like sore. So that's probably some training. You don't want any raspiness in your speaking. I think that that's really important. So I need to practice that. Some of Faulkner's writings are just unintelligible. He did write a brilliant novel called Light in August. Yeah, I haven't read that yet. Jeff probably has. Markham may have. Some of you guys, other guys might have as well. So I'd be curious what your thoughts are. But Faulkner, I don't know if unintelligible is the word I would use, but I think I know where you're coming from. Like his writings are sometimes you have to read the sentence like 12 times and you're like, what? And then finally you understand it. Um, yeah, so it's not easy. I think that's very clear. I watch a YouTube channel called The Rest is History by I love that. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. And they also have a podcast. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That is a great one. The Rest is History is really I love the way they talk. Yeah, they're just such great presenters. And Dominic Sandbrook now has another podcast called the Book Club. I don't know who his co-host is, but he has a co-host as well. But yeah, it's really cool. So I'd recommend checking that one out as well. It's nice to see other people with similar tastes to me. I love The Rest is History. I was working for years and listening to The Rest is History, a lot of other podcasts in that vein, but that's one of my favorites. T.R. Pearson is a modern comedic successor to Faulkner. Yeah, there's a lot of success in Faulkner, but I just don't think anyone quite like Faulkner. Yeah, that's fair. Not everyone, audiobooks aren't for everyone. But for me, I'm a big fan of audiobooks. I think I'll have to at some point come down clearly on the side of, pro audiobooks, anti audiobooks. It seems to be a big debate. And I'm pro audio. That doesn't mean I think everyone needs to read audiobook. I'm also pro physical book, but I'm pro both. As a writer of thick nonfiction, just keep the prose pressing forward. Yeah, yeah. What have you written, Mark? I'm curious. Could you share in the comments there what you'd recommend of your writings? Because I'm curious. I feel like I would enjoy Laura, or maybe there's something I would enjoy, and let me know if you think there would be. Thank you. Really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being here. The audiobook of Watership Down is amazing. Yes, yes. I have the physical one, but otherwise I would definitely check out the audiobook version. Where are we here in the comments? There we go. Speaking of audiobooks, David Tennant brilliantly narrates the How to Train Your Dragon series. Interesting. Yeah, that would be good narration. I would definitely enjoy that. Yeah, yeah. No, I was assuming you say you're pro audiobook since everyone takes in information differently. That makes sense. I think audiobooks are just such a different format. That's probably where a lot of the confusion and frustration comes from. They're just not the same as physical books. Okay, but we're 50 minutes in now, so I wanted to, at the very beginning of this, talk about Lansing, and I wanted to talk about endurance and the adventure novels. And so we went through most of the live stream without really getting into that. That's okay because we got to talk about a lot of other really interesting things. The book haul, my manuscript, Canadian history, some different presidents and their pros and cons. And so I'm really happy with this, and in the future, I think we'll continue with these kinds of conversations, but maybe have a few more points that I'm going to get to. Um, Before I get to this, listen to Watership Down a couple summers ago, unforgettable. Yeah, it's amazing. If you guys haven't read it, I encourage you to read it. You could read along with us in the book club in the reading room. It's on Substack as well. But either way, I encourage you to read it. It's really great. It's really great. But yeah, with the adventure novels, I'm curious, can anyone share your favorite, like what I'm really thinking of is nonfiction writing here. So any real adventure stories that could be Shackleton, could be other voyagers, but that you think I would enjoy reading. Because I read Endurance by Alfred Lansing. Um, Actually, was going to help my sister move, and and I was listening to it while I was up there, and it just totally refreshed me. I felt like I realized I was in a rut, not of not a rut of not reading, but a rut of like I'm reading because I have to talk about the books and I got to read. And that was weird, right? Like that's not me. I love reading. It's like very natural for me. So it was kind of strange that I was feeling that way. I was like, why do I feel like I'm still gonna read, but I'm just like not eating it up. Like I'm getting more distracted than normal. And then I read Endurance by Lansing, and it just totally reminded me of my sense of wonder. I was like, that is what was missing, you know? You have to have a sense of wonder in this world. It's essential. Without the sense of wonder, we die, you know? It's like the old saying, without a vision, the prophets say, without a vision, the nations perish, right? Without a sense of wonder, we we drift. We continue doing the same things, but we maybe just don't connect with them or understand the importance of them to the same degree. Um, so when I was reading this, I just totally refell in love uh, with narrative nonfiction and those kinds of stories. In Cold Blood was another one that happened to me at a different period of my life when I read it, and I was just really refreshed by it. Um, let's see, I wrote down a couple things here that about this, but that was really the first one. The story of Shackleton's voyage across Antarctica is insane. When they're trying to get through the book or the ship gets absolutely crushed by the ice. They get stopped. They all have to get out. They lose the ship. They start walking, but then they get to water and they have to cross the water, but then they're getting swept into the Gulf and then they see Elephant Island and they finally get there, but it's totally inhospitable. And then Shackleton has to leave with a few people to go way up and find a whaling ship and then so they can go back or a fishing ship so they can go back and rescue them. And at every stage is like they're leaving people behind because only two more people can go forward. It's crazy. And it's like this is a real story. It just blows your mind. And yeah, it was just something that I was like, I can't believe I haven't read this before. So that was one that I was just super blown away by. Um, I'm curious if you guys had read it. There's a few other ones that I've been meaning to read. There's one. What was this one? Into Thin Air. It's like the Mount Everest one. It's like it's about this disaster that happens on Everest. So that was one that I wanted to read. That was like a true adventure. Um, there's yes, Eric Larson's books. Yes, 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 yes. Great point. Great point. Yeah, I know. A lot of people. Josh Johnson, another booktuber that is really great that Markham introduced me to. He talked about Larson a few times as well. But yeah, yeah, there's some great books there as well. Um, let's see here. Let's see here. But yeah, those kinds of stories um, are ones that I really want to read. Um, there's a few other expeditions. The Worst Journey in the World is one that I've been recommended before. Um, I have to read that. To be honest, probably for me, other than Lansing's book, reading Teddy Roosevelt. is just like the most insane adventure stories. Like is that guy is just one of the craziest human beings to have ever lived, you know? The adventures he went on, the fact that he's like giving a campaign speech and he gets shot, and then he says, "It's gonna take more than that to kill a bull moose," and then keeps talking, right? Like, yeah, there are certain people in this world that make you feel a little less manly, maybe than you wish you did. But putting that all aside, I thought that adventure story was another one that I would love to read more Teddy Roosevelt, more about him, more by him. He also writes a lot of his own things as well. Um, and then, you know, there's other things too, right? Like the Lewis and Clark expeditions, the um, yeah, there's a lot of what is the other one? South. That's another one with Shackleton, right? Um, that's another one that I should read. But I'm curious, yeah, what you guys think are some of the other ones. Yeah, the endurance expedition for Shackleton. Um, I have here just like the synopsis of it. So the Endurance becomes trapped. It drifts for 10 months. It's crushed by ice. The crew camps on the ice, and then the lifeboats make it to Elephant Island. But then Shackleton sails 800 miles to cross the South Georgia, uh, or to get to a port on South Georgia, and he has to cross it by foot to get to the other side. It's crazy. It's crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. All right, here. Anyways, The Perfect Storm. Yes, that's another one that I've. Oh, okay. Glad to see that one being recommended. That's another one that I've been meaning to add to the list for a while. Okay. Kipling. Yes, yes, yes. That's Kim. Kim is a great example of that. It's a great book. Actually, one of his best books. I think Kim is one of the least talked about. I got to talk about that because nobody really. Everyone talks about the Jungle Books, which are great. The first one in particular is really good, and then well, like the second one's good too. But I just mean you get the Jungle Books, and then you get collected stories that aren't really related to the story that are included as well. The Man Who Would Be King. That's a really great story as well. It's poetry, but yeah, Kim is another great one. And I think super entertaining. I think people would love it if they read it more often. It would be cool to hear your thoughts on the Odyssey movie if you go to see it. Yes, I haven't seen it yet. I was, you know, maybe I should see it. I know it just came out, but it might be a while before I actually go and see it because I'm planning on seeing it when I'm going back for my sister's wedding. Actually, I'm going to visit them, so that's not for a couple weeks. So it's going to be kind of later in the cycle. But maybe I will give my thoughts after I see it. Many of you guys might have seen it before me by the time I actually get around to it. But yeah, it's I saw a funny post. It's like Hollywood spent like $1 billion trying to get Matt Damon home, and then it just shows all the different movies where he's like in Interstellar, he's like lost on another planet, and then in The Martian, he's on Mars and they can't get him back, and then in the Odyssey, he's away and they can't get him back, and then in Saving Private Ryan, they can't get him back. And I was like, that is funny. That is really funny. Um, oh, Lindbergh, Gift from the Sea. It's an interesting one as well. Yes, The River Journey. Yes, that's a really good one. Teddy Roosevelt is a hero of mine also. Yeah, yeah. As an individual, Roosevelt has to be a hero, right? I don't agree with all of his policy decisions, but as a human being, that guy is just a hero, right? He's just one of the coolest guys. So um, I still don't see Matt Damon as Odysseus. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Well, I don't really have many thoughts on the casting decisions yet. I'll have to see it first. I know there's been a lot of talk about that stuff, but it'll be very interesting. And we're rounding out the end of our conversation here today. It's up to an hour, so this was a lot of fun. This went a lot faster than I expected. So thank you for everyone for joining. I hope that you enjoyed this. I will see you guys next week in the reading room. Please leave comments if you have anything else you want to add, and I will see you then.